What's going on, y'all? This is John Alsace with the Face Mask Podcast, bringing you fantasy content every day on our YouTube channel. And today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite players of all time for a couple of different reasons. That's Antonio Brown. Now, news came out from Ian Rappaport that Antonio Brown's probation has ended a year ahead of schedule. He had an assault and battery case that was resolved, and apparently, according to his attorney, he sees, and I quote, nothing but blue sky ahead for their client. Now, Brown's been in and out of hot water for seemingly the past 2 to 3 seasons. Last month, he was sued by a company called KCB Marketing for allegedly failing to pay commission on more than one occasion. But, according to his attorney, he has nothing to worry about moving forward legally. He's 33 years old, and he signed a 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in May to operate as their number 3 wideout behind Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Now, last season, Antonio Brown played in 8 regular season games for Tampa Bay, and he caught 45 catches for 483 yards and 4 touchdowns in the regular season. He had 2 touchdown catches in the playoffs, including 1 in the Super Bowl. Now, I know it seems like forever since he was a top-end wide receiver, but in 2018, think back to 2018, he was still with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He wasn't thought of as a crazy person yet. He was the wide receiver 2 in standard scoring, the wide receiver 5 in full PPR, and the wide receiver 4 in half PPR. Now, he was operating as the number 1 in that offense, and there are a lot more mouths to feed for the Buccaneers. So those days of him being the wide receiver 2 overall, the wide receiver 5 overall, those days are gone. Because A, he's not in his prime anymore, he's 33, and B, he has to compete for targets with Mike Evans, who seemingly puts together an 1,000-yard season every season, and Chris Godwin, who is 2 years removed from being the wide receiver 2 in his own right. Now, they played 10 full games last season, including the playoffs. In those 10 games, Mike Evans got 73 targets for a 20% target share. Chris Godwin got 71 targets for a 19% target share. And Antonio Brown got 59 targets for a 16% target share. While the rest of the offense, the tight ends got 23%, the running backs got 16%, and the other wide receivers got another 6%. Now, how does that stack up? 59 targets, a 16% target share. That's not bad in 10 games, but where does that put him for fantasy? From weeks 9 to week 16, when Antonio Brown was in the fold, here's how Evans, Godwin, and Brown fared. Mike Evans was the wide receiver 5 in standard scoring, wide receiver 6 in half PPR, and wide receiver 7 in full PPR. So with all 3 of them in the fold, Evans was a wide receiver 1, hands down, no question about it. Chris Godwin was the wide receiver 25 in standard scoring, was the wide receiver 25 in half PPR, and the wide receiver 26 in full PPR. So he was a low-end wide receiver 2, very high-end wide receiver 3, through the span when all 3 of them were playing together. But where does that leave Antonio Brown? Antonio Brown was the wide receiver 49 in standard scoring, the wide receiver 54, the wide receiver 45 in half PPR, and the wide receiver 41 in full PPR. Now, this is a little bit skewed by the week 17 numbers, in which Brown had 11 catches for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. But that just goes to show you what he can do if one of the top 2 guys are missing, because in that game, he played without Evans for the majority of it. But for the most part, we can forget about the week 17 outing because it was week 17. So we've gotten his numbers from week 9 through week 17. But how does he project out to a full 16 games in which he's playing in this offense? Brown's total numbers over the 11 games that he played, including the playoffs, were 53 receptions for 564 yards and 6 touchdowns. Projected out to 16 games, that would have been good for the wide receiver 24 in full point PPR last year, as he would have accumulated 820 yards and 8.7 touchdowns. Now, it looks like things are becoming pretty clear for the breakdown of what we should be expecting from the Buccaneers wide receivers in fantasy terms. In fantasy terms, Mike Evans, low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. Godwin looks like he is in the mid to low end wide receiver 2 range. And then there's Brown, who looks like he's a wide receiver 3/flex play, week in, week out, who obviously, if anything were to happen to the top 2 pass catchers in this offense due to injury, would step into a much larger role, and we would have to completely reevaluate this ranking. But if everybody's healthy, he's looking like a wide receiver 3 flex play in this offense. Now, one thing to note is that Pro Football Focus did not credit Antonio Brown with a drop in any of his 62 regular season targets. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think Antonio Brown comes at all close to the finishes he put up in Pittsburgh? Or do you think the wide receiver flex range is spot on for where Antonio Brown should be ranking to finish by the end of the season? Put your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Thank you for listening. This is the Face Mask Podcast, and I'm John Alsace.